here that the moment the debate, as there's a conference going on at LSE called Production of Nature, and we've had this panel, I was presenting there earlier today. And I think it's important to lay out right at the outset that there are two narratives of development that we are talking about. So one narrative of development that at least I grew up with when I PTV पे 9 बजे की खबरों के बाद जो उससे पहले ad आती थी सोना यूरिया की, उसमें जो किसान था वो with chemicals he will be saved and productivity will be saved. And my geography textbook, I still remember, said always from class 8th till class 12th, Pakistan is still an agricultural country because the farmer is backward and lacks technology. Right? Always. Right? So what does it mean to say Pakistan is still an agricultural country? मतलब कितनी बेकार बात है कि हम तो we still don't have, we still backward, right? So we have this ladder, right? The main development narrative tells us that there's a ladder, and यहाँ नीचे जो है वो subsistence farmer है, और यहाँ पे हम जैसा बंदा बैठा है, urban last word जाता है, कहीं पढ़ाता है, और organic farmers market जा सकता है अगर उसको जाना हो तो. But really, we are the high modern ideal, right? And the high modern ideal was always the West, which of course bans GMOs. But all the third world and Latin America, Asia were sold this narrative, and we were led to believe these are newly decolonized countries. Remember, they are sort of flexing their wings, and they're saying, maybe talking about aid and imbalance of terms of trade. And the Green Revolution, the term, for those of you, some of you may be aware, was coined by the USA director to counter the socialist Red Revolutions. They were very aware that there is a political dimension in a Cold War to independency. So, in one narrative of development and modernization, the path to development and solving world poverty is agricultural innovation and genetically modified seeds. So वो ladder हमारे लिए defined है. In the other narrative, which you can call alternative agriculture, eco-agriculture, बड़े terms हैं उसमें the farmer is at the center. Farming communities are at the center of defining the food system. Who knows better about the food than the farmers who've done it for 10,000 years? Right? It's just basic science, basic that it's at that level that the narrative shifts. And the position of the farmer is not someone who is in impediment to development, but rather is the knowledgeable worker on whose labor and wisdom the country runs. Right? So these are two narratives of development that we should put out right there, because when the debate comes specifically to food and seed, the debate is framed in terms of food security versus food sovereignty, and Rafe will reiterate that later as well. So food security narrative tells you that food security exists when all people at all times have access to sufficient, safe, nutritious food to maintain a healthy and active life. It's about food availability, it's about food access, it's about food use. ये World Health Organization की definition है. You can't disagree with it. It looks pleasant enough. Just like you can't disagree with the fact that technology is good. I want to be progressive. I want there to be more choice in the market. What's the problem here? Any idea? It looks pretty nice. This is the power of narrative. This is why we really need to pay attention to different narratives of development.
There's nothing about the quality of food?
Right. There's nothing about it says nutritious, right? But it doesn't mention quality. It also doesn't say who is growing this food, right? What seed is being used? Are you growing Mexican seed in Gilgit-Baltistan or in Thatta? Or are you using seed that has been indigenously grown for many years and may have other kinds of traits that I would like in my food, or other kinds of tastes that I would like in my food? So the power dynamic is hidden. Nowhere in this definition can you say, I do not want 5 multinationals to control 90% or a huge percent of the world's food supply. I think that monopoly alone is a threat to ecological diversity, right? And forcing farmers to buy their seed repeatedly is actually an ecological infiltration, as far as I'm concerned. I'll use a very strong word, and I think the way they operate in so-called third world countries is through deception and infiltration, and I'll give you examples later. So this is the screen, the smoke screen, right? Food security sounds very good. बहुत UN conferences होती हैं. मैंने भी food security पे बहुत बोला हुआ है. It sounds really good, but we need to know what's missing. Food sovereignty, on the other hand, talks about a rights-based framework and the right of people to healthy and culturally appropriate food produced through sustainable methods. Method is very key. And the right to define their own food and agricultural system. My policies should be made by whom? Should they be made by MNCs ke lobbyists, right? Or should they be made by me as a farmer, me as a consumer, me as a citizen, me as a Pakistani? It develops a model of small-scale sustainable production, benefiting communities and the environment. It puts the aspirations, needs and livelihoods of those who produce, distribute and consume food at the heart of food systems and policies, rather than the demands of markets and corporations. If you read the Seed Agreement Act 2015, the statement of purpose, very clearly, they don't even pretend to talk about farmers' rights. They say, seed companies and private sector.
Relation क्या है? जिस तरह आप कह रही हैं कि food sovereignty है, food security है. What is the relation?
Yeah, good question, and we'll get to questions later as well. The relation is, what food sovereignty emphasizes is attention to people's ownership over the right to define their food system, right? I want to know what is going in my food, what is coming in my dinner table. Is this indigenous seed? Is this imported seed? If it's imported seed, इसमें कौन सी जीन डाली हुई है, क्यों डाली हुई है, और मेरे यहाँ क्यों grow हो रही है, right? I have a right to choose what grows on my seed. So if you know a lot of genetically modified seeds, one of the problems with them is that they can contaminate neighboring fields. So how Monsanto and other companies have operated in the US is कि एक farmer है, उसको नहीं पता कि genetically modified seed उसके land में आ चुकी है, and they have been charged for infringement of patents because genetically modified seeds are patents. So these are innocent infringements. In fact, उसकी land पे कब्जा किया है किसी foreign seed ने, and the problem there is that that farmer has no recourse because the governments and the laws are designed to prioritize the needs of corporations who sell seed, foreign corporations particularly, over the rights of people, consumers and farmers. So that's the relation. Okay? Now, moving on. I want to talk about the last point. The food sovereignty perspective also focuses on interdependency. So, it says that the right to manage lands, territories, water, seeds, livestock and biodiversity are in the hands of those who produce food. Genuine agrarian reform is one of the top priorities of the International Farmers Movement. This definition actually came from the International Farmers Movement called Via Campesina back in the mid-90s. So this is also very interesting, right? जो पहला narrative है development का वो is something the agent of which is the World Bank, the IMF, and then they work through governments. The other narrative of development, the agents are people's movements. And they've come up actually in resistance to the WTO, to the TRIPS agreement, and they've said, okay, it's interesting what they're saying, but what is it that they leave out? So, I'll talk briefly about some of the ways in which companies have been operating in Pakistan, and let me read out this quote by Dr. Shahida Wazarat, whom we interviewed. She is the head of the economics department at IOBM in Karachi. A few months back, I was in Balochistan and I met some people there who owned apple orchards in Quetta. They told me that around 3-4 years back, an NGO called the Pakistan Agriculture and Cold Chain Development, a subsidiary of a US NGO, Windrock International, gave apple saplings to orchard owners for free. These saplings were quite small and the farmers were told that they will not grow to a full fruit tree in that year and they would produce only a carton of apples. What they neglected to tell the farmers was that these were GM saplings, so they went about it quite deceptively. Apart from distributing these free GM saplings, the NGO additionally built a 30 crore cold storage facility free of cost to win the confidence of the farmers. It was extremely necessary for them to inform the farmers that the saplings were GMOs. Then when the Ministry of Interior enforced regulations about registering NGOs, PACCD disappeared and has not been found in Balochistan ever since. They just ran away, never to return. The major concern of the orchard owners had to do with cross-pollination and the polluting of other crops by GMOs. A lot of farmers are traditional, they do not want new products and have been saving their seeds for a long time. So they prefer to stick to their conventional methods. In this case, they had been tricked into planting GMOs through the free samples. Right? And I've actually seen some of the publicity material in work that I did in Sindh. It's really very convincing. You know, आपकी yield ऊपर चली जाएगी, आपको पैसे भी मिलेंगे, sometimes आपको कोई foreign trip मिल जाएगी, cold storage facility मिल जाएगी. These are active strategies that corporations employ, and you can see the problem right there. The problem is of transparency, the problem is of knowledge, and the problem is under what authority are you coming in. We say this is informal, but in a lot of countries this would be illegal. Next. This is a long quote, but I'll read some sections from a farmer that we interviewed from southern Punjab. So this is a farmer who was working with the government and then realizes that GM technology, that the way they're promoting it is actually filled with lies. I'm not going to mince words here. We have to use words like deception and infiltration. Academically, sometimes we avoid these words, but this is exactly why Monsanto 2 months ago was being tried for crimes against humanity and nature, right? In The Hague, if you look up the history. So I'll let Rafi talk about BT a little bit in detail. BT cotton is now more than 80% of what our cotton crop is. It's a Monsanto crop. It was brought in either through some Monsanto influence or also by our breeders. Monsanto offered farmers trips abroad. It promised these sort of, miracle productivity. So what's interesting is that the farmer is very aware. He's like, if you've seen the campaigns for cigarettes, you'll see that they were given out for free initially. Once you start smoking, it's difficult to stop as addiction develops. It was the same case with GM seed. It was given for free on purpose to a lot of farmers, and under technology agreements, it was given to our scientists too. They were told to not sell it, but to experiment with it. Now our scientists use this material with local indigenous varieties and started back crossing them, so that the genes crossed over into our varieties too. This farmer was very clear, and we have to do more interviews to know कि आज आपको मार्केट में कोई कहता है ना कि ये हमारा indigenous cotton variety है, it's hard to find. It's very easy to wipe out our seed heritage. So in India, according to one scientist who's documenting dwindling seed diversity after the Green Revolution, according to him, there were 110,000 varieties of rice in India. And there is a 90% reduction since the Green Revolution. This is before GM rice. Right? 90% reduction only after introducing some hybrids and commercial seeds, because these are also promoted by governments then, right? They come with this whole package that influences us, and they tell you कि यार इसको grow करेंगे तो फायदा होगा, वरना हमारी जो local बीज है वो तो हमें नुकसान दे देगी. Next.